everybody. Welcome to another edition of Sports View. I'm Ron Cameron.
And I'm Denny McClain. Again, this half hour, we've got with us Bob Page, who used to be Ron Cameron's co-host on this show. We've enjoyed kibitzing off the air also. And he's just brought up a real interesting story about Billy Martin. Obviously, Billy just died the other day, and we want to share that story with you. It's a terrific story.
So Billy wasn't all that bad, after what you'll hear what he says. The advertisers are Al Dietrich Oldsmobile. You want a great deal on a new or used car? Head over to see Uncle Al on M59 in Waterford. Where the runway ends, the deals begin. We have Tubby Sub Shops, many locations in Metro Detroit. Binary Midwest Computers. Go see John Waters and the gang in Berkeley on Woodward at 12 Mile. We have Amante, a great Italian restaurant, serves liquor with the meal. If you don't believe it, listen to the commercial when Bob Page does it on Warren and Vinoy.
Are you still
Garden
using
City.
that commercial? My voice on that commercial? And I'm not getting any residuals? No residuals.
Oh, gosh.
You were half polluted when you did it, too. We have Pass the Pro-Am Sports Systems, and we have, of course, Sports Fans Journal. New telephone number to subscribe now. We've gotten bigger. And the magazine's 96 pages, glossy color magazine. If you want to subscribe, dial our 24-hour hotline number, 778-8400. That's 778-8400 to subscribe. You got a kiss the ground, we invite you on, but since you're here...
I'm flattered to be
here. You do have a Billy Martin story.
In the presence of one of the heroes of my childhood in sports, Dennis Dale McClain, and, ladies and gentlemen,
your childhood?
one of the heroes of my childhood in broadcasting, Ron Cameron.
Yeah, sure.
So it's great to be here with you guys.
When I was a kid, this guy was on the air. Just go around walking down the street. When I was 12, 13 years old, the radio, listening to Bob Page, I said, how did this guy ever make it? I still wonder how he ever made it. Now, the situation with Billy Martin.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell the...
Well, we both can trade Billy Martin stories for hours.
Yeah,
which one are you talking about?
Well, I'm talking about
when he just threw you out of the room.
were running Billy down. You wanted to do an interview with him.
This was just before he got fired as Yankee manager for the last time. I was in Detroit. I went down to do some of my radio stuff and for some of the people I was working with at the time, and I wanted some stuff with Billy. And I'd been around Billy, many times in the past. Never covered him while he was Tiger manager, but I know how irascible and abrasive the guy is. Not a nice person, and he doesn't intimidate me. I'm not going to take anything from the guy. I just want to ask him some questions.
And what people have to realize is that Billy would take certain writers into his
confidence,
friendship, and into his confidence.
Oh, sure.
And if you were an outsider, you immediately had a problem.
And of course, my mentor too, a close friend, Al Ackerman. That was his boy in the Detroit media. That's right. Needless to say.
What a strange marriage that was.
Oh yeah.
Ackerman
Absolutely.
and Billy Martin.
Yeah. And I just went in and I asked Billy what I thought were, I don't think I was being caustic or abusive. I just asked him what I thought were good questions, and Billy would always give you these monosyllabic 1- and 2-word answers. And I just kept after him, and finally he had me thrown out of his office. They pushed me, and I kept my tape recorder rolling the whole time. I take it, I fed it to the networks, and they used it. So there's so many. Denny, this whole thing, in a sense, with Billy is shocking because he's a larger-than-life figure. And whenever we lose anybody like that, you can't believe he's gone. But on the other hand, is anybody out there shocked to think that Billy Martin would die prematurely in an alcohol-related accident?
No.
Is anybody shocked?
The shock of the accident was that he wasn't driving. That was the shock of it.
You're right there.
Because the original, for the first couple of hours after the story had first hit the wires, it was Billy was driving his truck. And then, of course, we learned later that Bill Reedy, who owns the saloon and is a top aide to Jack Kelly here, the city councilman, was actually driving the vehicle. I mean, what guilt Reedy must be feeling these days.
Oh, that'll ruin him. I mean, he was so close to Billy. They were so close as individuals.
When I was at Channel 7 a number of years ago, they had a number of years ago. They had a thing out in St. Clair Shores at the old Barrister House. Remember Louis Hood, that place out there?
Oh, yeah.
And it's a roast for somebody, and Martin and Mantle were going to be there, and Al, I was at Channel 7, as I mentioned, Al was going to do a live shot. I went out there with Al. This is 5 o'clock in the afternoon to set this thing up. And Martin and Mantle were there, and what a show these two characters put on. 5 in the afternoon, they got a whole evening in front of them, and both of them are smashed out of their minds already. Martin went on the air live with Al. Al didn't realize it. Al didn't know Billy was drunk. Went on the air live with Al, and it was just absolutely an abomination. It was so embarrassing. The things he said on the air, I mean, making some thinly veiled sexual references to certain people. I mean, it was awful.
Well, Billy and Mickey together never missed a cocktail hour.
They never did. And even then, Denny, I heard him on WFAN, the all-sports station in New York. They were there 10 days ago at Mickey's Place, Mickey Mantle's restaurant on Central Park South, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, doing a show with Dave Sims, and I'm listening to these guys, and you know what? These guys have been drinking. They've been drinking. 1 in the afternoon.
If there's a positive effect here, if there can be, it'll be that maybe Mickey will cut back on the elements. Mickey's been in the elements for a very long
Well, you know,
time.
Mickey's
also.
always wondered why he hadn't died before, you know, because his parents, his grandparents, his whole family has died prematurely in their 40s for the most part. He didn't think he'd live to be 50. So he's
Well,
wondering what's
I
going
also
on
had
anyway.
that same family history type of thing. My dad died 36. My grandfather died at 34. My great-great-grandfather died at 35. And it was a history there, and I was the first one to really break that chain. I guess that proves only the good die young. You know?
Yes, that
I mean,
proves that.
I don't think there's any other definition. But baseball, the world of sports, he was more than a sports guy, like you said. He was bigger than life. Billy Martin was an entertainer. Billy loved to entertain.
He loved center stage.
He had 1,000 stories about everybody in sports.
Yeah.
He had 1,000 one-liners about anybody and anything at any moment. And the most marvelous thing about Billy Martin was whether he was sober or whether he'd had too many, Billy never lost his sense of humor. And secondly, his lines and stories, if in fact this can be said about anybody, his stories were better when he'd had a few too many than they were when he was absolutely sober.
I was sitting in the press room with Billy and a couple of scouts, Dick Gernert, and I can't remember.
The old first baseman.
The old first baseman in your heyday in the 50s and the 60s. And somebody, I can't remember the other scout, another veteran. And that was the day that Billy Martin had sent up the hitter, right-hand hitter, he asked him to bat left-handed. And I can't remember who it was, and it was hilarious, and the media just came down. So we're sitting there, Billy sipping him down. He said, and meanwhile, the guy struck out to end the game. And Billy had him turn around and bat left-handed, whatever it was, or turn around and bat right-handed. And it'll come to me later on, maybe in the show. And the scouts were sitting down there. Billy says, and Dick Gernert looked at Billy and said, "Why, Billy?" And he said, "Well, we hit left-handed in college. I thought he could do it in the big leagues. Besides," he said, "the umpire kicked the pitch. For crying out loud, it was 2 feet outside." Dick Gernert looked at him and said, "No, he didn't. It was right down the middle." "Oh, it was? Okay." And just kept drinking. So Billy could be very comical, too.
Billy, listen, again, I get back to what I said a moment ago. Billy was an entertainer first. He was a great baseball manager, and I've always said I thought he was as good as there ever was because he had a unique ability to really determine what a guy's flaws were. Not what his assets were, but his flaws. He knew who could play when it was crunch time. He knew the guys that could really do the job in certain situations. He knew who he had to replace defensively, offensively. He knew who
Well, yeah, but he ruined every team he was with after a while. I mean, he was
And I'm
good for a
surprised that a
while.
pitcher- I'm
because Billy
surprised-
was honest.
Well,
Billy was
but
more
then
than
I'm
anything
Tell me the
else. He
four
was
Oakland
honest.
pitchers he
I'm
ruined at
surprised that a
23
pitcher
years
would
old,
be
pitching
making. I mean,
300
he
some
took
innings.
those kids in Oakland and he destroyed
terrible.
their arms.
Destroyed
I'm
them.
surprised that a pitcher
Billy
was
was
Couldn't handle
honest.
young players.
I agree with you. He had a very difficult.
And he's not a great manager
But let
then
me
if
tell
he
you
can't do
something. We have a guy here locally has a very difficult problem with young players.
Not like
Sparky
Billy.
Anderson. No, not because their personalities are dramatically different. But Billy Martin was honest. If you were lousy, he'd tell you. I mean, if you were great, he'd go up, "Hey, nice job,
Billy
terrific."
had his little
But if
slang
you
that people
ever
he
got-
liked and didn't like. You're
Listen,
the dog,
absolutely.
forget it.
I said that at the beginning of this program. He had a number of writers that he took into his confidence and his friendships. He developed those, and those were his pipelines. He would find out what the other writers were saying about him off the record. I mean, you got to remember, the people who ripped him, he also drank with. He also went out with. So Billy had this standard. Hey, how can you drink with me one night and then rip me the next day? I don't understand that. Billy had a difficult time with that. And of course, the intensity of the media has changed over the years. I mean, every little thing in a guy's personal life now is big headlines, especially someone in Billy's life. But Billy, more than anything else, was honest. The problem with that honesty was he would get you so damn mad, you would stay mad at Billy.
As Jim Northrup.
Billy probably got over it. Over the intensity, although with an exception there, yes. I mean, I got to tell you a quick story.
Tell
There was
it.
a card show up in Flint about a little more than a year ago, and I had Northrup, and it was a charity thing up there. I had it for Northrup and Billy Martin were the guests, along with Horton, Gates Brown, some of the '68 Tigers. And Northrup made it very clear to me that he wanted to leave before Martin could show up. So I scheduled them like 30 minutes without ever seeing each other. The problem was Billy arrived a little early, and Billy walked in a little early, but there were no
Northrup
words
just left
exchanged.
then, didn't he?
Well, Jimmy got up, and it was his time to leave at that point anyway. But the bottom line was there was still that awful animosity for each other. It was just terrible. When we come back, we'll do some more about the college bowl games coming up. We got the NFL playoffs coming up, and that should be surprisingly interesting because the four teams that are going to be playing this weekend shall not make anything with their ability this year. L.A., Philly, Pittsburgh, and Houston, they're all history in 2 weeks.
It's a new generation of Oldsmobiles.
At Al Dietrich Olds GMC trucks,
Choose from a great selection of Oldsmobiles.
including Cutlass Supreme and the restyled Cutlass Seattle.
Or hundreds of GMC trucks in stock.
Complete with an Uncle Al price that can't be beat.
For sales or service.
Let Uncle Al come through for you.
This is the new generation of
East of the Pontiac Airport.
On M59 in Waterford.
Looking for that perfect Christmas gift for those sports fans? How about a subscription to Sports Fans Journal? Here's just a few of our celebrity columnists. Our 96-page glossy color magazine is a must for all sports fans living in Michigan or anywhere in the U.S. Just $15 for a year's subscription to Sports Fans Journal. Call our 24-hour hotline at 751-1818. Give the gift that will last all year, a subscription to Sports Fans Journal. In fact, get one for yourself. Call now, 751-1818.
Submarine. There's no substitute, just no substitute for Tubby Submarine. Gotta get down to a Tubby's. I would go out of my way. 25 delicious varieties, I guarantee to make you say, Tubby Submarine. Ooh, I love those Tubbies.
We're back on Sports View with Bob Page, who was, well, he's from New York now. Of course, he's now
I'm
at
from
Madison
Detroit.
Square.
I live and work in New York now,
Yeah.
but I'm from
You live in New York, and you work with Madison Square Garden in New York. 14 months you've been there, and they haven't run you out yet.
Amazing, isn't it? It's incredible what guaranteed contracts will do for you, right?
Guaranteed contracts don't do anything for you if these idiots that are running the stations don't like you and all that stuff. But you know which side your bread is buttered over there. Then
I guess so, right? I know who signs the checks, so.
Okay, now the fact is, what's going on? I mean, you've had. I mean, like you were calling me on the phone, telling me, look out for the Rangers this year. The Rangers are going to win the Stanley Cup. And all
I never
that
said
stuff.
that, but I'll tell you what, the Rangers got off to a great start,
Uh-huh.
and if you look at what's happened to them now, Ronnie, half that team is out with injuries. I mean, it's amazing. Roger Nielsen has done the job that he has, holding them together under
Yeah.
these circumstances. They went through a stretch recently. They didn't have a power play goal in 6 games.
That's terrible.
6 games without a power play
And that
goal.
with your floaters.
John
floating around
Ogrodnick's
on
had
the-
a hell of a year. He's got like 18 goals, something like that right now.
Well, John
He's playing well.
Ogrodnick did something that may have been the play of the decade. He actually, I read this in the paper and I couldn't believe
It
it.
happened right in front of me. I was
Right in
at
front
the
of you.
game that night. I was sitting up in
Were you sober,
the
Bob?
press area at the end. It happened 15 feet in front of me. John Ogrodnick did get a 5-minute major
No,
penalty.
he got a game misconduct.
It's an automatic game misconduct.
For boarding.
For boarding when it's a 5-minute major penalty because it was the Detroit kid, Gordy Roberts.
Gordy Roberts, who's not exactly what you
And
call
Gordy Roberts went after him after that too and tried to start a fight, and Angelo Ogrodnick wouldn't fight him. Just jumped him in the corner. And
I just can't believe that
Apparently,
he's,
Mr. Ogrodnick is not very combative.
he's a pussycat takeaway part of the name, and you know what part to take away.
But he can score goals, as I've always told you. And another thing about John Ogrodnick, and this is we're seeing so much of this in sports these days, Danny.
He floated
is that
for 4 years.
He is on what? The last year of his contract.
You know, they signed, the Red
So,
Wings
you
signed
know,
this clown, and I say a clown because I think he's got the heart the size of Bob Page's brain, which is very microscopic. Signed to a 5-year
I've been away from this
contract.
show, what, how many months now? And nothing's changed. You know, it's the
Nothing.
same old, same old. I still get
Let
abused on this
me
program.
Continue. Signed a 5-year contract to this clown after he'd scored 50 goals, whatever it was. He floated for 4 years. He scored 10, 12 goals a year. And this guy said he's going to score 40 this
He's got
year.
the ability.
He's got
the talent.
Yeah, but why doesn't he do it?
He's gonna this year.
Yeah,
It's
because it's the last year of his
contract.
contract.
Let us move to another New York team. A guy who apparently is finally going to make some impact in the NBA, Ewing.
I mean, he's the best center in the world today. Yeah, finally going to make some impact. Sure.
Finally going to make some impact.
Well, I mean, what you're saying now is that Patrick Ewing finally has arrived as the greatest center in the world, because last year he was one of the 2 best centers in the world, along with he had a hell of a year last year. But offensively, he's become much more aggressive this season.
That's the word, aggressive. He
he's-
wasn't like that before.
He scored more points. They got a little bit of different system because they have a new coach in Stu Jackson, and I think Stu realizes, hey, I've got this guy. Let's go to him.
But whether it be a new system or what have you, he always, up until this year, and I've seen him, I think 3 times now on different networks, he looked like he was intimidated.
I don't agree with that, Denny. The guy's been a fantastic shot blocker. The guy's a great defensive intimidator.
Fouls a lot because he goes after every shot. That's been a problem.
Patrick Ewing has been the second best center in the world. Now he's the best center. Now he has surpassed Akeem. And if he never quite lived up in the past to his billing from Georgetown, and I know what you're getting at.
You know what I'm? Yeah.
It could be because he hasn't been aggressive enough.
Well, Magic said the same thing. He said, "I'm surprised. I thought he was as good as he was going to be last year, and he's raised it a level above that because he's become more aggressive. He's not as passive."
Well, my point to all this is that simply, like we were talking about, he had all of the headlines at Georgetown. He went into New York and he commanded those headlines, but did not produce those headlines. Now all of a sudden he appears that he's going to
maybe he's
be
matured
that player.
also. I don't think John.
Tough New York too. Tough.
Yeah, it is. I don't think John Thompson does those kids a lot of favors.
I don't either.
Shielding them from the media, keeping them from the so-called real world, and when Patrick came into the Big Apple, the biggest media market in the country and probably the world. It was a situation where he maybe was a little shy, a little insecure, a little intimidated by the surrounds.
And not used to being ripped once in a while.
Well, I don't think Patrick's ever really had that kind of criticism in the New York media. There was a situation maybe early last year where one of the columnists, I think it was Harvey Ayrton, and somebody wrote a piece about he was hurting the Knicks because he got into foul trouble and he was on the bench crunch time when they needed him in the game. But that's as close as he's come to really being vilified.
Do you think what you've seen the Pistons are going to repeat this year?
Of course not. There's no way the Pistons are going to repeat this year because my buddy John Sally is doing car commercials and he's doing TV shows and he's running his record company and Isaiah's got his book that he's
got all them pretty girls around him, John Sally.
I've written for one of the Detroit magazines that I still write for, not yours. Another one in town, which I guess
You
will
will
have to
not
remain
mention.
nameless. But at any rate,
Well, in your life, you'll
these
not
guys just aren't hungry anymore. That's why most teams don't repeat. That's why you see repeaters in hockey of all the four sports because they don't make the money that they do in the other sports.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And the salaries in NBA are going to be, they estimate, with the new contract, the minimum salary is going to be $1 million a year.
Can you believe that Blair Rasmussen got 17.5?
The only
This guy stinks.
I
Blair
had Harry
Rasmussen.
Weltman on one of my shows in New York, the very, very nice but incompetent general manager of the New Jersey Nets earlier this year. And, Harry came up with it. I said, Harry, how can you give Lester Connor over $1 million a year? He said, Bob, you remember that under the terms of the player's contract, the NBA players must get X amount of dollars as a percentage of the whole. And with the TV money escalating, with all the money escalating, you must allocate this much for player salaries.
Let's not forget about the cocaine money.
And you have 12 guys in the team, and you've got to give these guys these ridiculous sums of money. John Koncak, give me a break. And even, although the kid's a good ball player, Terry Porter out west, he's making over $2 million this year.
But like this fella said from the Nets, the money's there. They got to spend it. And rather than give one player $10 million for 1 year, they can now afford to share the wealth a little bit. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, we may all think there's a lot of guys that don't deserve this kind of money or this kind of money, but the bottom line is it's not our money.
Well, you made a good comment the other day,
It gives us something to talk about.
You made a good comment the other day. I have to give you credit for it. You said quality starts. Nowadays, you pitch 6 innings, you give up 3 runs, you got a quality start. Years ago, you'd be sent to AAA. Now it's a quality start.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It's amazing how the game has changed because if you could only pitch 5 or 6 innings 15, 20 years ago, you were in Syracuse or someplace even worse. Now they get quality starts. How many quality? Well, I had 22 quality starts. What the hell does that mean?
I want to preface what I'm going to say by saying, I know we got to get a commercial break, but the guy I'm going to talk about is one of the finest men I've ever been around in sports. One of the nicest guys I've ever been around, and he's been a fairly competent pitcher. But Walt Terrell signing with the Pittsburgh Pirates for more than $1 million. I don't know if Walter can get anybody out consistently.
Well, I'll tell you this. He's worth more than Pascual Perez.
Oh,
I don't know about that.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, look at the
I don't know about that.
He's got a fine young arm. He's got a strong young arm.
Sure, strong young arm. He's in drug rehab at the time.
What would this guy have made? What would this guy have made?
He'd own the ball club.
I'd be a partner.
Unbelievable.
We'll come right back with more about my possibilities of being a partner and the bowl schedules right after this.
Buy Binary Computers is celebrating their 9th anniversary, and how they've become one of Detroit's top independent computer dealers is really simple. A great selection of brand name computer products, outstanding service, and highly knowledgeable trained consultants who make things understandable in plain English. Binary now has facsimile machines and telephone systems, so stop in for special anniversary savings at Binary Computers, Metro Detroit's business computer center, Woodward at 12 Mile, Berkeley. Remember, if you haven't got a computer, you'd better get one before your competitor does.
Hey, Brian. Dunks. Listen, you want to get high? I got some great stuff.
No thanks, Mike. That junk's bad news.
Smart kid. He doesn't need that stuff. Nobody does. I'm McGruff, the crime dog. Now, watch these kids.
I'm bored. Why don't we get wasted?
Why don't you get real?
I've got a better idea. Why don't you get lost?
See that? It's happening everywhere. So, if anyone ever wants to turn you on, just turn them off. It's a great way to help take a bite out of crime.
Try the most exquisite, authentic, delicious Italian food ever. The Amantea has a complete variety of Italian and American cuisine. Homemade lasagna, mostaccioli, spaghetti, and veal parmesan. Fantastic American favorites, too, such as steak, ribs, chops, poultry, and seafood. After dinner, have a refreshing drink and an Italian dessert. At Amantea's, only the freshest ingredients are used in all their entrees, homemade soups, pastas, and sauces. So experience the best in Italian and American cuisine at a very reasonable price. Amantea, a place you can be proud to bring your friends, family, and business associates.
We're back on Sports View with
Nothing's changed.
with Bob Page.
The spittle is still dribbling down your chin when you're babbling to the crew. Are we on? Are we on? Yeah.
No, I didn't mean
we're
whether
on.
we're on. Is this the last segment? No, we got
time.
Oh, we're doing our picks now. Bob Page will allow him. Of course, you know Bob Page is the one guy that when he does his picks, you could be a bum, stumble bum on the street, a drunk.
You know, that's the rumor that you were not very good at picks.
Not very good. He makes you put you in the Hall of Fame and pick it.
But I'm going to do well with my bowl picks this year because you know how I did them? The guys all laughed in our pool at work in New York. I flipped a coin on every one. And I won the Michigan State game already. I would have bet against State.
Could turn
I won
the street bum into a Howard Hughes.
Well, let's start.
They've been against him.
Let's start with the game that has more meaning than any of the other bowl games, and that's obviously USC and Michigan. USC is a favorite over Michigan. Can you believe that?
I hadn't heard that. What's
I
the
think
point? What's the
USC's going to
spread?
win. Although
is a 2-point favorite over Michigan.
I think it's going to be a darn good game, and USC will win.
You had to make 2 picks on this game, before bowl announcement, after bowl announcement.
Yeah, you're right there.
Before bowl announcement, I liked USC. After bowl announcement, if these Michigan kids are ever going to play, they're going to play now.
It's probably true. I'm not. I think Michigan may well be the best club in the nation right now.
Not me.
Right along with Notre Dame and Colorado. I don't think
Miami's ahead of Michigan, I think.
Oh, I don't know. I think it'd be a terrific test if they.
I do too. I think it'd be a good test, but I don't think Michigan deserves to be number one no matter what they do. Although they'll get some sentimental vets.
So we've got one USC and Michigan. Okay, Air Force over.
Game,
they're picking Air Force 3 over Mississippi. I like Mississippi.
Then if you like Mississippi, name one player who plays for them. Just give me one name. One player who plays for Mississippi.
Air Force is overrated.
Name one player who plays for Mississippi. I can't
They
pick.
got.
How
Let me
can
tell you.
pick
I'll
this
name.
stuff when you don't even
wait a
know
minute.
who plays
no,
on these teams.
I'm going to tell you.
One player, Denny.
Okay. Jones, Smith.
Yeah, right.
McPike. They've
Right.
always got
All right,
Jones
now
and
I'm going to
Smith at
expose him for the
Mississippi.
front. As everybody
I
knows,
could care less of that.
Air Force has a great quarterback this year who got Heisman votes. What's his name?
It starts with a T. The
What's his
freshman
name?
you're talking about?
What's
The
his
freshman
name?
with
He's
the
not
T.
a freshman. What's
Well,
the Air
I
Force
don't know. I don't know.
You see what a
Paige,
fraud we're
let me
dealing
tell you
with?
something,
What a
Paige.
fraud we're dealing
Paige,
with.
wait a minute,
He
Paige.
doesn't even know who
Paige,
Pete Dow
Paige,
is.
Paige,
Paige, listen, we've got all kinds
Yeah,
of
we got
information.
time to
Wait
get
a
to your
second. We've
poll.
got all kinds of information to go over, team by team, position by position. We don't have time to do that.
Right.
This is only a half-hour show.
You guys are both frauds picking these games, and I've exposed you to the public.
Enough.
Well, we will write your expertise down as we go along.
Right. Yeah.
Duke over Texas Tech. I like Duke.
Duke over Texas. I like Duke too.
Good. Name a player on Duke. Either
Oh,
one of you
for
guys.
God's sake.
Either one of you guys.
Are you going to play this game or not?
I have no pick. I can't name a player either.
You want me to read you the records
Who's
and
the
where
Duke
they're
coach?
ranked?
Who's the Duke coach? You should know that. You don't even know that. His name is out there in connection with
Mr.
every
Spurrier.
NFL. Thank you.
Listen, Spurrier.
You didn't even know Steve Spurrier was the
going
coach
to take
of
the
Duke.
Florida job. Spurrier's going to take the Florida job. Be quiet.
Penn State.
He's done a good job at
BYU.
You know who the coach of Penn State is,
I
don't
like
you?
BYU.
I like Penn State against BYU. I'm going to go with Penn State because I think the team's going to be higher than a kite under Paterno. I think Penn State's going to beat them.
I don't know who's going to win that game. I haven't seen it play all year long.
For crying out loud. Let's go.
I haven't seen BYU play all year.
Do something about this.
We
Now
got
I know why you got rid of him.
Yeah.
Texas A&M over Pitt. I like Texas A&M.
I like Pitt.
Georgia over Syracuse. I like Georgia.
I like Syracuse.
And I hate Georgia.
McPherson.
I can't believe I took Georgia.
Yeah, hurry up.
Clemson over West Virginia. I like West Virginia.
I like Clemson.
Washington over Florida. I like Florida.
I like Washington.
Arizona, North Carolina State. I like Arizona.
I like Arizona too.
Auburn and Ohio State. Ohio State should not be in a bowl game. I like Auburn.
I like Auburn too.
Arkansas is 10-1 and Tennessee's 10-1. Lousy ball game, but I like Arkansas.
I like Arkansas too.
I used to live in Tennessee. Did not like it. Illinois, Virginia. I like Illinois.
I like Illinois too.
That's the way the secretaries pick the office poll. I think San Francisco. I like San Francisco.
We got to go to a break here. We're getting killed here.
Florida State and Nebraska. I like Florida State.
I like Nebraska this one. I'm gonna go with Nebraska.
This is amazing insight into these matchups. Amazing insight into these matchups.
Notre Dame will blow out Colorado.
This guy probably couldn't even name the quarterback for Notre Dame.
Notre Dame will blow out Colorado.
Sure, not a Heisman Trophy, Rice.
You don't care.
I think Notre Dame will win. It won't be a blowout. It'll be a close game. We got to.
I have seen
come
both.
back.
I like Miami over Alabama.
So do I.
And when we come back, Bob Page will not be here.
Detroit's first NBA championship team, the Pistons, revel in the excitement of their historic season on Pass every month with Pistons Update. Fred McLeod looks at last year's incredible plays, inspired coaching, and future front office moves that will affect this year's new squad. We'll feature highlights and candid interviews to keep you up to date with the bad boys during the offseason. Catch Pistons Update each and every month on Michigan's cable network of NBA champions, Pass Sports.
Some people just can't get along without their gadgets. And then there are those who really can't. When you give to the United Foundation, one of the 154 agencies you help support is the Detroit Institute for Children. So give generously to the Torch Drive for all the good you can do.
You may begin.
Well, everybody has got to choose. And with your choices, you win or lose.
What's the capital of North Dakota?
Be strong, keep singing this song. Doing what's right is never wrong. Doing what's right is never wrong.
From the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Looking for that perfect Christmas gift for those sports fans? How about a subscription to Sports Fans Journal? Here's just a few of our celebrity columnists. Our 96-page glossy color magazine is a must for all sports fans living in Michigan or anywhere in the U.S. Just $15 for a year's subscription to Sports Fans Journal. Call our 24-hour hotline at 751-1818. Give the gift that will last all year, a subscription to Sports Fans Journal. In fact, get one for yourself. Call now, 751-1818. We're back on Sports. You, Bob Page, screwed it up again. Thanks for coming on, but that's enough of you.
You've missed me, haven't you?
Oh, the hell, I've missed you. L.A. and Philly, I like L.A. I have Pittsburgh at Houston. I want Pittsburgh, but I think Houston will win. That's it. Out of time. Al Dietrich Olds, Cubby Subshop, Binary, Midwest Computers, Amatea, Restaurant Pass, and Sports Fans Journal. Call 778-8400 to subscribe. Bye-bye, everybody.